Prime Minister Carney is perhaps naive when he thinks that having dialogue with India will bear great fruits. We've seen this play out many times through many prime ministers.
The invitation to Mr. Modi on June 6th, when Sikhs around the world are commemorating the 1984 June genocide, on that particular day was very insensitive.
ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਦੀਆਂ ਸਿੱਖ ਜਥੇਬੰਦੀਆਂ ਨੇ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਦੇ ਪ੍ਰਧਾਨ ਮੰਤਰੀ ਕਾਰਨੇ ਨੂੰ ਭਾਰਤ ਦੇ ਪ੍ਰਧਾਨ ਮੰਤਰੀ ਨਰਿੰਦਰ ਮੋਦੀ ਨੂੰ ਭੇਜੇ G7 ਸੰਮੇਲਨ ਦੇ ਸੱਦੇ ਨੂੰ ਰੱਦ ਕਰਨ ਦੀ ਅਪੀਲ ਕੀਤੀ ਹੈ। ਸਿੱਖ ਜਥੇਬੰਦੀਆਂ ਦਾ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਭਾਰਤ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਤੇ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਵਿੱਚ ਸਿੱਖ ਆਗੂਆਂ ਦੀ ਹੱਤਿਆ ਦੀ ਸਾਜ਼ਿਸ਼ ਰਚਣ ਦੇ ਇਲਜ਼ਾਮ ਲੱਗੇ ਹਨ। ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਦੀ ਧਰਤੀ ਤੇ ਸਿੱਖ ਆਗੂ ਹਰਦੀਪ ਸਿੰਘ ਨਿੱਜਰ ਦਾ ਕਤਲ ਕੀਤਾ ਗਿਆ। ਗੈਂਗਸਟਰ ਲਾਰੈਂਸ ਬਿਸ਼ਨੋਈ ਵਰਗੇ ਅਪਰਾਧਿਕ ਸੰਗਠਨ ਨੂੰ ਭਾਰਤ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਦੀ ਸਰਪ੍ਰਸਤੀ ਹਾਸਲ ਹੈ, ਜਿਸ ਤੋਂ ਕੈਨੇਡੀਅਨ ਪੁਲਿਸ ਅਨੁਸਾਰ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਦੇ ਸਿੱਖ ਲੀਡਰ ਜਗਮੀਤ ਸਿੰਘ ਦੀ ਜਾਨ ਨੂੰ ਖਤਰਾ ਦੱਸਿਆ ਗਿਆ ਹੈ। ਇਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਭਾਰਤ ਦੇ PM ਨੂੰ ਇਸ ਸੰਮੇਲਨ ਵਿੱਚ ਸ਼ਾਮਿਲ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋਣ ਦਿੱਤਾ ਜਾ ਸਕਦਾ। ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਦੀਆਂ ਸਿੱਖ ਜਥੇਬੰਦੀਆਂ ਨੇ ਭਾਰਤ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਕੀਤੀ ਅੰਤਰਰਾਸ਼ਟਰੀ ਦਖਲਅੰਦਾਜ਼ੀ ਦੀ ਜਨਤਕ ਜਾਂਚ ਦੀ ਵੀ ਮੰਗ ਕੀਤੀ ਹੈ।
So we have made 3 demands, and the other 2 are an inquiry into India's transnational oppression, and the second is, of course, looking at all of that information and cancelling the intelligence sharing agreements that India has with Canada. So if steps are taken to show that Canada, our government, recognizes the threats and is willing to take steps to neutralize those threats, that will go a long ways towards assuaging, towards helping us deal with the situation. But otherwise, the way this has been portrayed in the Indian media is a complete capitulation. And in fact, you have senior editors, I'll just say it, the editor of the first Post, it's an Indian media outlet, who has said that we will kill Khalistanis in Canada and there's nothing you can do without it. And he ended that tweet with the word cope. This is an open call for killing. And that's how it's being understood. So I think Prime Minister Carney is perhaps naive when he thinks that having dialogue with India will bear great fruits. We've seen this play out many times through many prime ministers. And without strong action, without actual concrete announcements and requirements, nothing changes. It gets worse.
History would say no. What Mr. Modi and Modi's inner circle have continued to do. Bilateral relations between countries take place. We're well aware of that as well. The invitation to Mr. Modi on June 6th, when Sikhs around the world are commemorating the 1984 June genocide, on that particular day was very insensitive. Then you have the G7 that's running up from June 14th to approximately the 17th, which is bumping up against June 18th, which is the actual assassination day of Mr. Niger. That is very insensitive. These types of conversations could be had elsewhere. These types of conversations should have very strict boundaries around them as to how they can happen and what the actual outcomes could be, rather than we're rolling out a red carpet for an individual that's going to come for basically a 2-day summit retreat, drink and eat and go home. Like, to us, that just seems like a huge betrayal in these moments, in these days leading up to 2 years when the Sikh community is commemorating 2 major events, especially in Canada. That how is it that this insensitivity is shown in this moment? So I think there's definitely a pathway for conversation. That's never not going to happen. But I think what's happened now is that it's just shown that how quickly we've made a U-turn. Inviting Mr. Modi at this time was the wrong decision. Having this conversation without clear-cut public statements. We ran a public inquiry. We had a public safety committee that sat down in October of 2024 around violence and agents of the government of India committing those acts of violence in Canada. So basically the question starts popping up in our minds, what was the last year and a half for? Like, the last government did all this work. Within 1 month, it feels like it's being completely reversed. The slate is being wiped clean. And we're going to be right back where we were just over 2 years ago, where activists in our community and the broader community and these extortions and everything else is going to go back to what it was, which is horrible. It doesn't allow people to live their lives in Canada. It doesn't allow for the Charter, your freedoms of expression and speech, those to be enacted in any which way. So I think for all those reasons, I think these meetings can happen, but they have to have boundaries. They have to have clear-cut objectives. And we haven't seen any of that on the table except for this idea of law enforcement dialogue will continue between the 2 countries. And the way the Sikh community feels is that law enforcement dialogue has basically been Canada saying cooperate and India basically, for a lack of better words, raising the middle finger and walking away every single time. And that is not acceptable. And the second part of that law enforcement dialogue is India feeds Canada information, India feeds propaganda, India feeds them with like false information. And we have been taking this information almost verbatim since Mr. Modi has come into power. The 2018 report on Sikh Khalistani extremism as a threat to Canada, the report that was mentioned earlier, that report, how is it that that report could be put in place? Sikh Khalistani extremism could be added in, and then because a community who said in the absence of evidence, you know, you will be barred from our stages and our places of gathering, and the government of Canada removes the reference. So there was no evidence in our minds. It was all propaganda that was being fed through India. It was all what happened in February of 2018 when Prime Minister Trudeau went to India, and he was basically ridiculed there. And then he was, you know, into signing these security and intelligence sharing agreements, which have had ramifications up until the present day for the Sikh community and others as well. I think for all those reasons, I have a lot to say on that topic of how this should have happened. But I'll stop there as to like this was the worst way it could have happened, and that's why we're here today.